United stand as it is confirmed from David Ornstein, Fabrizio Romano, the Tier 1 journalist, that Liam Delap has chosen to join Chelsea. Manchester United and Everton have been informed that Liam Delap's choice is to join Chelsea. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it the fact that Liam Delap watched Manchester United against Asian All-Stars and then watched Chelsea in the Conference League final and thought, I know where I'm going? Was that the tip of the iceberg where he thought, sack that off, I'm not going to Manchester United? Or was it the fact that Chelsea have prepared a 9-year contract on 200 grand a week for Liam Delap? Could that be the swaying factor? Manchester United, Jason Wilcox thought that they had sealed this deal. They thought Delap was incoming to Manchester United. They thought they had it wrapped up. Omar Barada speaking yesterday to the media saying that they had a clear plan with or without Champions League football. Liam Delap was definitely part of that plan. We know he was our number one target. So what is the plan now? The plan is already It's already in tatters. The plan is already in tatters. Where do Manchester United move to now? Could it be a good thing? Get your comments in down below. Are you frustrated about this? I did speak about it on previous shows. If you have watched my afternoon shows, I said I understand the majority of the community, including myself, would much prefer to go for a Gyökeres or an Osimhen, a striker with experience. Although we do think Delap has got that potential and have got that ability, he wouldn't be my number one choice, but we could end up in a situation, I've said it multiple times before on the show, where Delap's at Chelsea, Osimhen's in Saudi, Gyökeres is at Arsenal, Ekitike or Isak, well, now Isak's got Champions League football with Newcastle. I think that slot is pushing ahead with Ekitike from Frankfurt. Is it Liverpool? And Manchester United are sat there twiddling their thumbs thinking, where do we go next for the striker? Our priority position, the one position that Ruben Amorim identified as soon as he stepped foot in Manchester United, it's been our priority position since the start of this season that we were going to go all in for a striker in the summer. Our top target, and whether we like it or not, Liam Delap was our top target, is now chosen Chelsea. Where do Manchester United go from here? I'll give you all the details, but there is some good news. We have been in Napoli having talks over Victor Osimhen. If Manchester United pivot to Victor Osimhen now and we end up getting Victor Osimhen, all is forgiven. That is what Manchester United have to do, in my opinion. But get your comments in. Let me know how you're feeling. What do you think it was with Liam Delap that made him choose Chelsea as well? I had a theory. Me and Goldbridge were speaking about this over WhatsApp. We already thought he'd chosen Chelsea because they got Champions League football, but it wasn't announced because they didn't want any distractions before the Conference League final. Do you remember when we said we knew we'd got Cunha, but there wasn't going to be any announcements before the Europa League final because we didn't want any distractions? I honestly think that Liam Delap probably informed Manchester United a few days ago that he wasn't going to go there. I think as soon as Chelsea secured Champions League football on the last day of the season, Liam Delap made up his mind, but there was just no news coming out about this before the Conference League final because Chelsea didn't want any distractions. And that ties into what I'm going to bring in a second, which is why Manchester United were in Napoli at the weekend, because I think they already knew they were missing out on Delap. And I genuinely do think Manchester United are now trying to pivot and trying to come up with some sort of solution for our striker position. And I think Victor Osimhen is somebody that Manchester United are going to push ahead with. Whether we can get that deal done, I'll bring up that bit of news that came out this morning into the show in a second. So this is coming in now from David Ornstein. Liam Delap, suitors being informed he is not joining them amid preference to sign for Chelsea. Sources at likes of Manchester United, Newcastle United, Everton and Nottingham Forest now aware. 22-year-old on course for Chelsea, subject to personal terms and release clause requirements being met. Enzo Maresca is a huge fan of Liam Delap. It then comes out further in the article that Liam Delap's preference is to sign for Chelsea and sign a contract until 2036 with the option of another 3 years with roughly £10 million in wages. So just looking at that, it doesn't even seem real. 2036. I had to double take. I checked my calendar on my laptop. We're in 2025. That is a 9-year contract with an extra 3 years option on 200 grand a week. Unless I'm getting my calculations wrong, that is 200 grand a week with a contract for 9 years. 2036. 2036. It's in 9 years' time. Plus, you've got an extra 3 years onto that. So, Liam Delap, how old is he? 22. In 9 years' time, he will be 31. Am I right in that? Yeah, in 9 years' time, he will be 31. So, Liam Delap's just secured his future. He's literally just secured his future by signing that deal with Chelsea. It guarantees him money for the next decade of his life. That's what Liam Delap has just done. So, like we've said on previous shows before, Manchester United can come up with the whole plan of what they want Liam Delap to be at Manchester United, how they think he's going to be the next Harry Kane, how, this is what the future is under Amorim, this is what we're building here at Manchester United. They can put that together. But at the end of the day, we are not going to be able to compete, and we shouldn't compete money and contract-wise with what Chelsea are offering him. There is no way, if it would have broke, that Manchester United have give Liam Delap a 9-year contract on 200 grand a week, I would be absolutely fuming. There's no way that we should be. I think he's got great potential, and he could well go on to be one of the best strikers in the Premier League in the future. But there's still no way at 22, coming from Ipswich, that Manchester United should be giving Liam Delap a 9-year contract on 200 grand a week. We just cannot compete with what Chelsea are going to offer. This is what they do. They give out massive contracts. They're hugely ambitious. They clearly don't care about money. And that is the way that they've managed to secure the Delap deal. They don't lose when it comes to transfer battles. Chelsea, very rarely, no matter what position they're in, even when they were outside of the Champions League spaces, even when they were having that horror show of a season, don't lose when it comes to transfers. They offer massive contracts, they offer massive fees, they offer massive wages. And they will be doing that because in Chelsea's mind, they have got Liam Delap at a very good price for his 30 million release clause. Therefore, they can go extra on the wages, they can go extra on the contract, which they tend to do anyway, to be honest with you. So that's how they've managed to wrap up that deal. And what I would say to him is good luck. Good luck to Liam Delap at Chelsea. You're going to be competing with Nicholas Jackson. At Manchester United, you would have been starting. Chelsea have got a number of forward options. They might well buy another striker next season as well. They tend to just buy and buy and buy. I mean, how many left wingers have they gone through? They went and got Sancho from United. Now apparently they're going to go for Garnacho as well. The forward positions, they just love to go and buy players. So you will have competition. I suppose he probably believes in himself that he's good enough. Yes, you have Champions League football, which is obviously a massive bonus to a player. But I'm going to be honest, and this might be very rich because I understand that Manchester United are 15th in the Premier League. We've got no European football and we are at the lowest of the lows. And I understand everyone's point that game against Asian All-Stars, it's just a post-season friendly. No one can be bothered. We shouldn't take it to heart, but it's still the pride of wearing the shirt and it was an embarrassment. I understand Manchester United are at the lowest possible place that we can be right now, apart from relegation. But I don't want a player that doesn't want Manchester United. I'm just going to put that out there. Cunha is the perfect example of the type of characters we should be going for. He had a number of Premier League clubs interested in him. Arsenal, they'll deny it, but they were absolutely interested in him in January and revisited it at the end of the season. They've got Champions League. Nottingham Forest, who they haven't got Champions League, but they've got European football, interested in him. Newcastle, very interested in Cunha. Champions League football to offer. There was multiple clubs that had European football that are in a better position in their rebuild and in their pathway to get into the top of English football that were offering Cunha a pathway and wanted him. Cunha didn't go round for weeks speaking to other clubs and thinking about his options and, well, if Manchester United don't win the Europa League, I'm going to go to a club with Champions League football. I want Champions League football. Cunha instantly wanted Manchester United. And this is one of the best players in the Premier League this season, in Cunha. He wanted Manchester United. His mentality is, I'm going to take on that number 10. I'm going to be one of the players that brings Manchester United back to the top. That's the type of characters I want. So Liam Delap, Good luck to him at Chelsea. I'm honestly not bitter about it because he wasn't my first choice striker anyway. The only thing that worries me is where do Manchester United go from here? Because to respond to being snubbed, because we have been snubbed and we've just got to hold our hands up and say that, we have been snubbed by Liam Delap. To respond to that, what Manchester United have to do now is go all out and at least try and sign Gyökeres or Osimhen. They've got to. They've got to go and do it. And Gyökeres might say, no, I'm going to Arsenal. Osimhen might say, no, I'm going to Saudi, or no, I'm going to this club. But we've got to at least make a good go at going getting one of them players. We are Manchester United. We cannot be snubbed by Liam Delap and then start scrambling around for the whole window and end up with somebody that nobody else wants. We've got to go all out for a top striker. That's my opinion anyway. Get in the comments down below what you would do. And to be honest with you, is it embarrassing that we've been snubbed? Yes, it is. But would Manchester United be able to offer the wages and the contract that Chelsea are offering? And would you want them to? I wouldn't. I really wouldn't. So as much as people say, oh, what is this recruitment team doing? They had this deal in the palm of the hands and we've been let down, like they've not managed to get it over the line. I don't see it like that. Because if Liam Delap turned round to Jason Wilcox and our transfer team and said, Chelsea are offering me a 9-year deal on 200 grand a week, what can you do? I'd say, have a good time at Chelsea. We've sold you our project. This is our vision for you. You're going to be starting up front for Manchester United. You're going to be our striker for the next how many years? Amorim's got a plan for you. If you don't want that and you want to go to Chelsea because of the Champions League and for the money, then off you go. And I would agree with that. So I'm not too frustrated with Manchester United and the transfer team on this one. Yeah, okay, we should be able to convince players to come to Manchester United, but it's a bit of a tough ask when there's so much money on the line. And sometimes, you know, when a player sees that they can be set up for life with a huge contract and they're going to be able to play in the Champions League as well, that can tempt them. We've got super chats in. Patrick Lynch says the board that Ineos assembled to sort out recruitment has fumbled another deal. That's what I was just talking about. Have they fumbled it though? Because we would never be able to offer that contract that he's getting at Chelsea. Again, a very public failure. Whether Delap is good enough or not, it highlights the level of incompetence we can't afford. We've got Marcus S saying, hi Beth, you are right. If the player wants to come, that's a great starting point. I wish Delap well. Brad B says, calm, Gyökeres is coming. We are still United. Nigel Speedle says, I'm actually relieved we're not going for Delap now. It's up to the board to show us they mean business and sign Osimhen or Gyökeres. And Sheng says, what's the news on Osimhen? So, I am going to... Oh, it's not even... I'm just seeing this now. 2036 is 11 years. It's not 9 years. My maths is breaking down here. We're in 2025. 2036 is 11 years. Not even 9 years. 11 years. 11 years. So he's got a contract till he's 33 with an extra 3 years option. Manchester United cannot compete with that. They just cannot compete with that. And I think it's stupidity from Chelsea to offer that sort of contract. But you know what? If they see the vision with Delap and they are... like, if a player's got a contract for 11 years, where is the hunger? They've got to be very sure that he has got the right characteristics to have that hunger and drive every single day to go out there and perform at the highest level. So... people are saying it's fake. Have I just done the whole show on... I don't think it is fake. I'll try and get news on that. If someone can let me know who's watching, admin or whatever, what the contract is. But it came out from David Ornstein's article, I'm pretty sure, that it was an 11-year contract till 2036. Anyway, why is the chat trying to have me on? Look, I'm trying to have a serious conversation here about Manchester United's future striker this summer after our number one target has just gone to Chelsea. But anyway, let me bring in the news surrounding Osimhen, because like I said, we said on the show that it could be a very high likability that Liam Delap already chose Chelsea when they got Champions League football, and Manchester United were informed of that earlier and everything was just staying quiet because of the distractions around the Conference League final. So let me get up the Osimhen news now. So this came in from Napolista, an Italian outlet close to Napoli. As of Tuesday, Manchester United's Director of Negotiations, Matt Hargreaves, met with Napoli officials to discuss a possible deal for Victor Osimhen. Napoli are interested in a deal involving Rasmus Højlund and €40 million. And then I looked and I went and tried to find the full article from Napolista. And this is what it says. United's Director of Football Negotiations, Matt Hargreaves, was recently in Naples to hold a meeting with Napoli Sporting Director Giovanni Manna and the club president. Amid United missing out on Delap, the main topic of discussion was surrounding the possibility of United signing Victor Osimhen this summer, with the club seriously interested in the Nigerian international. According to Napolista, the Serie A side would be interested in including United's Danish striker as a part of a player plus cash offer for Osimhen, as long as United were prepared to add around £33 million to the deal. With Napoli set to sign Kevin De Bruyne on a free transfer this summer, United willing to let Højlund go this summer for the right price. Keep an eye on this deal. So, would you do that deal? I've just been told in my ear that the contract with Delap and Chelsea could be fake. Well, do you know what? Even if he's not snubbed us just for the money, for the Champions League football, you know, a lot of players want Champions League football. That's fine. Chelsea might not be in the Champions League next season, and United might be. Okay, it's a bit of a stretch, but you're guaranteed in the Champions League for one season. You're not guaranteed to be in it over and over again. What I would say is Chelsea are a lot more ambitious than Manchester United. Their board is a lot more ambitious than Manchester United. They fight more to be in them Champions League spaces, so they are more likely to be in the Champions League. I completely understand it. But, okay, it might not be for money. But it might be for European football, but still, like I said, I want a player that wants to join Manchester United to get Manchester United back to the top. If he wants to join Chelsea, that's his prerogative. And like I said, I wish him the best of luck. Right, I've been absolutely done by the admin, by the way. I've been absolutely done because I got sent the news. Guys. I'm going to be clipped left, right and centre. I started the show and I said, can people please send me news on the Delap deal? I'm sorry, I'm throwing the admin under the bus. I got told, please send me news on the Delap deal. I'm going live now. We've got to go live quick because this has just happened and obviously we want to get live and speak about it. So I literally just looked at the news that I was being sent through the admin on this Delap stuff. And apparently we've been done on the contract. Apparently we've been done on the contract and it's fake. So Matt's just messaged me saying, turns out they were posting fake news. Lol. Right, great stuff, guys. So I did how much of the show? I did 16 minutes of the show speaking about how Liam Delap was signing an 11-year contract on 200 grand a week when it's fake. Brilliant stuff. Thank you, everyone. When, in matter of fact, Manchester United have probably just been snubbed because, I mean, look at us. Look at us and where we are. So, great. Do you know what? People in the chat are saying, obviously it's fake, right? How is it obviously fake? Because Chelsea give out stupid contracts all the time. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes close. I would not be surprised if it comes close when the news actually does come out. But 200 grand a week is a lot for a 22-year-old coming from Ipswich, I've got to be honest. But we'll have to wait and see on that news coming out about his contract and the length of it. But anyway, guys, we're not getting Delap. That's the news. Wish him the best of luck. If you don't want Man United, that's great. But it is embarrassing to be snubbed by Chelsea. See, I was letting the board and the transfer team off the hook. I was like, you know what? You can't compete with a 9 or 11-year contract, whatever was being put out. You can't compete with 200 grand a week because we can't, you know, we're not going to be able to give him a 9 or 11-year contract on 200 grand a week. I get it. I get why you didn't manage to get it over the line. But now that it's turned out that that's fake, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, why have we missed out on this deal? Is it purely down to the fact of Champions League football? If so, not really much that we can do about that. Or is it just because Chelsea have a better plan to put forward to Delap and they've just managed to convince him better than we have? I don't know. Wilcox does have a relationship with Delap, but so does Maresca. At the end of the day, Chelsea don't lose, and we'll put it that way. And I think there's quite a few people in the chat that are actually happy that we're not getting Delap. He wasn't my first choice, but I'll only be okay with this if we actually manage to go out there and still sign a top striker, something better than Delap. And the only way you can do that for me is going all out for an Osimhen and Gyökeres, and we'll revisit that Osimhen story in a second. A lot of the chat saying we want Gyökeres. It really just depends whether he picks Arsenal or not. Although what I was saying before to Greg, the producer, I was saying that Arsenal could just do this Gyökeres deal. He's got a gentleman's agreement with Sporting. It's going to cost you just over 60 million. They need a striker. Why haven't they just done this deal? Because there's a lot of rumours that they are deciding themselves between Sesko and Gyökeres. So if Arsenal go for Sesko over Gyökeres, Manchester United could have another crack at Gyökeres. I'd be very, very surprised if another Champions League team doesn't come in for him, and we know how much he wants Champions League football. But there could be a way that Manchester United can have a crack at Gyökeres if Arsenal do go for Sesko. Bruno Pogba says, we should remember that City pulled out on Sanchez and Maguire. Bet they don't wish those deals went through. I mean, they might have turned out very differently at City, so you don't know. Like they might have turned out to be top players at City with the way that they are coached and the structure behind the scenes, so you can't really say that. Rob Brown says United is in a downward trajectory. 50% of Prem teams have a better project/investments. Football is a mercenary game now. Cunha is the rare exception. Brad B says leaves us with two options: Osimhen or Gyökeres. Win-win. Joel Paul Joseph says, I want Sesko. He's very clinical and good in the air. I'm not completely convinced on Sesko for the money. He's an excellent ball striker. Like, the way he hits the ball is fantastic. But I just don't think every element of his game is up to speed with what we need from a striker right now. Dylan Hardman says, afternoon Beth, can I say you look beautiful as always? And I guess it's plan Z then. Honestly, don't have the pull anymore because we destroy players. That's another thing as well. You've got to look at it and you think, how many United players that we sign come to the club and end up going on to do really well. Like, Mainu is now out of the England side. Rashford dropped out of the England side. Sancho dropped out of the England side when he came to United. Maguire hasn't been picked for England, but I don't think that's anything down to him or United. I think Tuchel's dropped the ball by not picking Maguire. I'm going to be honest. I think Maguire's had a very good season. But how many players come to United and they go backwards rather than go forwards? That's another thing that Delap's probably going to be looking at as well when he's thinking about picking between United and Chelsea. He also might be looking at it and thinking, do you know what? The United fans don't even want me. I've seen so many people complain about the fact that we're in for Liam Delap. I don't know if that would have swayed his judgment really, but it'll be interesting to see the figures when they do end up coming out. What I would say though is when Barada spoke yesterday about having a plan, and we've got a plan no matter what the scenario, this wasn't part of the plan. Their plan was to sign Liam Delap. They were very, very confident that Liam Delap was going to get signed. Per Goldbridge's source, they were very confident that Liam Delap was going to happen. So what happens now? I know quite a few people thought that Gyökeres and Osimhen was our top priority, and then because we didn't get Champions League football, the priority then goes on to Delap. I actually don't think it was. I think Delap, whether we got Champions League football or not, was always our top priority because of Jason Wilcox's obsession with him and the price and Premier League, young, English. Like, I think Ineos loved that, and I think he was the number one pick. I think now that we know we're not getting Delap, we could have a better chance of getting Osimhen. Gyökeres, I think it's very likely he ends up going to Arsenal. Osimhen, we have known previously that it doesn't matter to Osimhen whether United have got Champions League football. The only thing where Osimhen has been a stumbling block is concerns around his attitude, which I think is just exaggerated in the media. I don't think there's any concerns over Victor Osimhen's attitude. I think he's a winner. I think he's got the arrogance that you need to play up front for Manchester United. I think he believes in himself. I think he's confident. The reason he fell out with Napoli is not because of attitude issues. It's because of the issues that happened with Napoli and the social media team. That is why. And I can completely understand Victor Osimhen's stance on that. So it's nothing to do with attitude. He's gone to Galatasaray. I understand the Turkish league is not as competitive as the top 5 leagues, but he's absolutely smashed it. You can only make do with what you've got, and you can only play what's in front of you, and he smashed it over there. He smashed it in Serie A, done really well in the Champions League when he did play for Napoli. Perfect age, perfect amount of experience, knows how good he is. I think he's the perfect player to come into Manchester United. And the news coming out from Italy that Manchester United were over having conversations with Napoli regarding the possibility of a swap deal for Rasmus Højlund is absolute music to my ears. And it makes me think that if we were over there on Tuesday, which is what is being reported, that we were over discussing the possibility of that swap deal on Tuesday, Matt Hargreaves was over there doing that, as well as discussing a couple of other things. I think Garnacho definitely would have been a topic that was brought up in them negotiations and in them talks. I think that's a really, really good sign for Manchester United, because you think about it and you think, now Delap is going to Chelsea, where do United move to? Do they move to a Gyökeres or an Osimhen, or do they move to a Mateta? Ekatike, Frankfurt are demanding 100 million and Liverpool are all over that, so we've got absolutely no chance. Sesko, too expensive, and in my opinion, just not the type of striker we need. Another young striker that's looking close to Arsenal as well. Where do you Manchester United go to? And I think they have to go out and try and get a Gyökeres or an Osimhen. And for me, if you can manage to offload Højlund in that deal as well, that would completely make up for the fact that we have embarrassed ourselves in this Delap deal. It would make up for it tenfold. It would be an absolutely unbelievable deal to manage to offload Rasmus Højlund as well as getting Victor Osimhen. It would be a huge deal for Manchester United to do, and it would be a fantastic deal for them to do. But for that to happen, Osimhen's got to approve. I actually think Osimhen would come to Manchester United. I know for a fact that Manchester United have always liked Osimhen. We've had Ben Jacobs on this show before who said that Osimhen is the dream striker for Manchester United. It's just always been too expensive. And you'd have to get the approval of Rasmus Højlund to go over to Napoli. Would he want to do that? Well, if a player's told by Amorim that you're not really part of my plans, then Napoli have just won Serie A. They're adding De Bruyne into the mix. Players are thriving over there. Conte's a great manager. Why would you not want to go if you've not got a future at United? I think it's a really good move for him. So this is a deal that does have some legs in it and could end up happening. If it does, Manchester United have done really well to recover from the embarrassment of the Delap deal. Let's get a poll running in the chat. Where do you think Manchester United will go next? And we'll have the options as Osimhen, Gyökeres, Mateta or other. I mean, we could end up in a situation where we go and spend the money on Mbeumo and we don't end up going for an out-and-out number 9. Cunha's versatile, can play up there, and Mbeumo's versatile, can play up there, and just stick with Højlund and Xerxes. As much as I love Mbeumo, I still think we have to sign a proper number 9. How Manchester United can have the striker position as their number 1 priority for the summer all season and then not even ended up signing a proper striker would just sum Manchester United up. I think we still have to go for a proper number 9. So let's get that poll up and running and see what you guys think. I think Manchester United, to recover from the embarrassment, have to go all out for a Gyökeres and an Osimhen. And we could end up in a situation where they both say no. But you've at least got to throw everything at it but the kitchen sink. If I said to you now, and just say yes or no in the chat, and I'll read it out. If I said to you now that we've done a swap deal with Napoli, we're paying 33 million and we're giving him Rasmus Højlund, but we get Osimhen back, but he is going to be on 300 grand a week, would you do it? Would you do it? And the more desperate I'm becoming, the more I'm just accepting of the fact we might have to pay a really high wage on this one. And yes, 300 grand a week is a lot, but you've got to understand what you're getting. You're getting an experienced striker, basically guaranteed to score goals, makes goals out of nothing. Imagine if he actually had some proper service in behind him as well. Been round the block, got a hunger to prove quite a few people wrong, got the arrogance about him. You know, he's got that attitude that you need to wear the number 9 shirt for Manchester United. He will score goals. He's got the attributes that suit the Premier League, that pace, that power, that aggression. He bullies centre-backs. He's got European experience as well. You've got to know what you're getting, and sometimes it's worth paying that little bit extra. It's not absolutely stupid off the scale. You're not making him your highest earner at the football club, but you're going in there and you are giving him a good package because of what he's going to provide for you. We've gone down the route of getting, you know, cheaper players in, and it's not always worked out for us. So, needs must. We need a striker, and we need a very good one. We've been crying out for a top striker for years. Years upon years. Is it time we bite the bullet and just pay the money for Victor Osimhen? Because the transfer fee isn't even going to be that much, really, because I think Napoli are willing to let him go for about 60. And they're saying, you know, if you give us Rasmus and 33, they're valuing Rasmus at around 30 odd million. So you're paying 33 million, you're offloading a player that hasn't really worked out in Manchester United. Okay, yeah, you've got to pay Osimhen quite a big wage. But if he goes, I don't think anybody will be complaining about paying Osimhen 300 grand a week if he goes and scores 20 goals next season, which is possible. It's very possible. Get in the comments down below, what would you do? We've got a very mix of yeses and nos in the chat. I think some people just want to get a striker in like myself and want it to be a guaranteed goal scorer, which Victor Osimhen in my opinion is, and some people are worried about big wages again because we've been burnt in the past. Sashin Sharma says Osimhen is a merc, attitude issues, tantrums, nope. Can you please get in the comments down below what Osimhen's attitude issues are, because I've not seen any attitude issues from Osimhen. I've seen certain things been twisted and made into look like he's got attitude issues when actually he was treated pretty unfairly, and I can understand why he was frustrated. Trina says, hi Beth, I say we keep Osimhen as backup option but go all in for Gyökeres to get a straight answer. I'm going to be honest, I actually think Osimhen is a better striker than Gyökeres, just based off what I've seen of Osimhen, but I still absolutely would take Gyökeres. I think Gyökeres is a good striker as well. I would take either, to be honest, right now, but I think Osimhen is more gettable than Gyökeres. SK says, keep positive. As we said, Delap isn't all that. I'd first try Gyökeres or Osimhen. If not, we go for Mateta to Ram. And that's the Italian striker, Retti Gue. Also possible, there are options. Ubi7 says, Ruben versus the board is like asking for an ice cream but getting told there is chalk ices in the freezer. Joseph De Rosa says, chose Chelsea over us, makes you wonder where we are as a club. What are the odds we don't sign a striker till August? Lee Berman says, Wilcox led on Delap, he failed, get rid. I think that is a little bit harsh. I think we've got to at least give him the summer to kind of recover this, to be honest with you. You've got to at least give the recruitment team the summer to recover, because you never know, Manchester United might end up getting a Gyökeres or an Osimhen, and then you wouldn't be saying sack Wilcox, would you? You know, we've got to... Sometimes you don't get the deals you want. Sometimes clubs are willing to offer more. Like we spoke about in the chat before, City were also in for Maguire. When we were in for Maguire, City pulled out because of the amount of money it was going to cost them. United just continued to go up and up and up. Sometimes you don't end up getting the deal and it's out of your hands. I need to know more information about this before I start going in on the transfer team at Manchester United. But what I will say is it's not a good look to lose out on a striker to Chelsea, especially when a few weeks ago it was being reported that he was very highly likely coming to Manchester United. However, I do believe this. I genuinely do believe that Delap was bothered about Champions League football.
And that is what was being reported. And I've seen multiple people say, I don't think he actually is. I think they're kind of twisting it. I think Golby's even said on here, I don't think he'd actually, I don't think it'd be ride or die on Champions League football. I don't think a player coming out of Ipswich can really demand that. When you've got that many clubs lining up for you, maybe it was something that was a non-negotiable for him. If United would have won the Europa League, we might have Delap right now, because I even heard as well, I mean, people can take the mick out of Golbidge's source, but they have got a lot of things right, and I've heard as well behind the scenes that Manchester United were very, very sure that they were going to get Delap sorted. Delap wanted to move back up north. He was very deep into conversations and negotiations with Manchester United for him to become a Manchester United player. I genuinely do think if Manchester United would have won that Europa League, Delap would be holding up a United shirt right now. I do believe that. I think Chelsea getting Champions League football on the last day of the season and United missing out on Champions League football is what has scuppered us getting Delap over the line. I do believe that. I think European football was something that was big to him, but I can never understand why players are completely ride or die on Champions League football, because I understand you want to have a sense that your club's going to be in Europe and you want to play European football, but there's never a guarantee for the following season. There is never a guarantee. You're not guaranteed in the Champions League for years upon years. You've got to continue to get that Champions League football every single year. Mitchell Sanderson says Strand Larsen is a decent option. Proven, affordable until you can buy an elite number 9. I do like the look of Strand Larsen, but I just don't think it's the calibre that Manchester United should be going for. We need to look higher. Brad B says if United won, Delap would be last option over Gyökeres. I don't know. We were very much in for Delap, whether we got Champions League or not. I do believe that. On Strand Larsen, I don't want to completely write him off, because I actually have watched a lot of Wolves, and Wolves have some good players, and Strand Larsen is very, very decent. I'd take him over Højlund, but I think if we're going to go for the striker for the next how many years to build with under Osimhen, I would go for somebody else. V says, I wish Delap good luck. However, if he gets cursed like other Chelsea 9s, it won't be the worst thing. We'll get better. United. Someone's commented under that saying, just admit we can't even attract relegated players. It's worrying, isn't it? Alex Marmon says, are we not considering Johan Wissa at Brentford? Honestly, I don't know what it is about Brentford players, but they go under the radar. Wissa has scored 19 goals in the Premier League this season. I think he's got the most goals in the Premier League, non-penalty goals, if I'm right on that. I saw that somewhere the other day. He's 28, so, a little bit on the older side, but we did say we wanted an experienced striker. But I just don't, again, as good as he is, and I think he's done really well for Brentford, it's not the player I'd be going for. It still isn't the player I'd be going for, despite how well he's done. I just don't know if it's the striker that Manchester United should go for, but he's done fantastically well. Again, I would take him over Højlund. Most Premier League strikers I would, but it's not the one I would be going all out to go and get now. And I don't think we've been linked to him once. We've been linked to Mateta though. Would you be happy with Mateta? Get in the comments down below. Where do United go now? Osimhen, Gyökeres, Mateta or other? Vote in the poll. I don't know if people are going to be voting this in a sense of where they realistically think we'll go on where they want us to go. I don't know if it's my blind hope on this, but I'm going to vote Osimhen in hopes that there is truth in the news coming out from Napoli that we were talking to Napoli about going and getting Osimhen in a swap deal for Højlund, because I just think that would be an absolutely unbelievable deal. I'm going to be honest. I think that would be a class deal for Manchester United. Just looking here on seeing if there's any more news coming out around Delap or the Osimhen stuff. Just quickly. Let me have a look. We've got something coming in regarding Ahmad. We'll just circle back round. So Ahmad put out there, I have respect for people, but not for the one who insults my mom. I shouldn't have reacted like that, but I don't regret what I did. We had a great time in Malaysia with good people. So Ahmad has put out a personal statement there. He was getting a lot of stick for the middle finger the picture where he's putting up the middle finger, and it looks like he's putting the middle finger up for the crowd of people over in Malaysia. He has put out a personal statement basically saying he has respect for everybody, and that individual moment of him putting the middle finger up at somebody, it was because they insulted his mum, which again, obviously, when someone insults your mum, you're going to react like most people would. I support Ahmad because, you know, you shouldn't be subject to individual abuse like that. So as long as, you know, he wasn't, you know, putting his middle finger up at the crowd, which I know he wouldn't do. Like, I've seen Ahmad in the mix zone. I've seen the way he interacts with fans. I've seen the way he interacts with people. He loves Manchester United and he loves the fans. I've seen that. He's a great character. He's lovely. I've had the pleasure of interviewing a few Manchester United players in the mix zone, and Ahmad, genuinely, not just saying this because he's popular or because everyone loves him. For me, I think he was the politest player I've ever met or interacted with. Came over straight away, shook everyone's hands in a mix zone and was so nice. He's lovely. So I can understand that he wouldn't just be putting his middle finger up at the crowd. It was an individual incident where there were obviously, basically, talking about his mother in a derogatory way, which you're obviously going to react to. So completely stand behind Ahmad in that. Got another super chat in from Mars Spitter. Thank you very... Oh. Is that... Are you trying to have me on there? Mars Spitter? I don't think so. I don't think that's... I've had so many people with random names that have tried to kind of catch me out on stream that I always get so conscious about it. PC Gamer Tag says Welbeck is a good option too. Ricky's burner in the chat there. Absolutely not. We never should have let Welbeck go when we did, but not now. Maliki Francis says, reckon we are going to end up getting a striker on loan. We're not going to continue to make mistakes of the past. Nick James says, Osimhen on loan, Jonathan David for free, Wissa, Welbeck. We won't be able to get Osimhen on loan. David's going to go... David hasn't been linked to us once. He's not even been linked to a Premier League move. Wissa we've not been linked to, although a good option. And Welbeck is too old now. We never should have let us go with him when we did, but he is too old now. People in the chat saying, what's the news on Osimhen? I have already spoken about it, but apparently Manchester United were over in Napoli on Tuesday. As of Tuesday, Manchester United's Director of Negotiations, Matt Hargreaves, met with Napoli officials to discuss a possible deal for Victor Osimhen. Napoli are interested in a deal involving Rasmus Højlund and €40 million, which is £33 million. I actually do believe that this was part of negotiations. I also believe that they were negotiating for Garnacho. Positive news on that. Manchester United, we need to sell Garnacho. We know this. The relationship with Amorim is broken down and he is up for sale, and I think he wants out of United too. There was rumours that Conte was going to leave Napoli, which put us in a little bit of a difficult spot, because you look at the interest from Napoli in January, that was driven by Conte. Conte likes Garnacho, wants to work with him, and I think Garnacho working under the lights of Conte would be excellent. I think he would develop as a player. I think he'd probably go out there and smash it, and I want him to do well. And I think Conte's a proper manager who gets the best out of players. I mean, look at what Scott McTominay's done over there. He's absolutely killed it. Unbelievable. I'm so happy for him. And Manchester United would get money. So it looks like Conte is actually going to stay at Napoli now. They thought he was going to go. It looks like he's going to stay. That's great for us because we can reignite that interest with Garnacho. And also, you look at Rasmus Højlund in this deal here, in the Osimhen deal, that's something that could still be on the cards as well. The only thing is, would Rasmus want to go over there and play second fiddle to Lukaku, which is what would end up happening? You've got to run it by the player, and that's why swap deals are sometimes difficult. But if Amorim does have that honest conversation with him that he's not got a future at United, and Napoli want you and you've got room to develop, you're going to be working with Lukaku, who's an experienced striker who's done very well in Serie A, been in Champions League finals. Rasmus might want to go and do that, and he has a lot of fans in Italy. He did well in Italy. He might think that's the best step for his career, so we'll have to go and see. We'll have to see with that one. What would you guys think of that? Mela Noe says, Lookman plays as a 9, available, prolific and clinical. I really like Lookman, but we're not going to get him as a number 9. That's not going to happen. Votes on where do United go now, 43% have said Gyökeres, 30% have said Osimhen, 14% have said Mateta, and 13% have said other. Look, Osimhen and Gyökeres are the dream. For me, it's Osimhen, Gyökeres, Mateta in that order. I think Gyökeres is the least likely. I think Mateta is probably the most likely. But if you think about it, Mateta, right, this is where United are at now. Mateta has got Europa League football next season with Crystal Palace. He's got Europa League football. Crystal Palace have just qualified for the Europa League. Selhurst Park's going to be absolutely rocking. They're building a good team. If Glasner stays, that's a massive plus. They're going to want big money for Mateta. Still not nailed on, we'll go and get him. He might not want to come. Also, United would have to pay pretty decent money. I think they'd want at least 50 million for him. There was rumours about them maybe accepting 40 mil earlier on this year, but now they're in the Europa League. I think they'll want at least 50 mil. Gyökeres is 60, but it's just whether you can convince the player. That's the situation we're in. Just, I don't know. I don't know where we're going to go to, because there's a lot of teams that are in for strikers right now. Liverpool are another one that are in for a striker. At the moment, Slot's really pushing for Hugo Ekitike from Frankfurt, but they want 100 million. If Liverpool don't want to pay that, they might pivot to a player that we want. They might pivot for Gyökeres. They might pivot for an Osimhen. I don't think they will, but they might. It's going to be tough for Manchester United trying to sell that project, and that's why Cunha is such a gem. He had offers from Champions League clubs, but he had that mentality of, I'm going to get Manchester United back to the top. It's hard to find that still. You are losing them sort of players, so if you can find them, excellent. Get in the comments down below, how would you feel if United didn't sign a striker but signed Mbeumo? Would that tide you over? Do you think it's enough? I'm the biggest fan of Mbeumo, but I still think we have to sign. I still think we have to sign a proper number 9. Just going to see quickly if there's any sort of updates whatsoever on what the wages are going to be for Liam Delap. I think we'll have to wait for it to come out, even though I got trolled earlier. I wouldn't be surprised if it's far off though. Romano has said Chelsea closing in on Liam Delap deal as details of the long-term contract being completed with his agents. So the details of the contracts are being completed. Enzo Maresca appreciation plus Champions League football made the difference. Again, like I said, I think Liam Delap truly did want that Champions League. So you never know. You never know. And this might be an absolute long shot, because I don't want to come across bitter about the Delap signing, because I do think he's got potential. I really do think he's got potential, and he might go on to do well. But what I would say is, you never know. Manchester United not winning the Europa League final and not getting Champions League football might end up working out in the long run. Because we might end up somehow, out of something, we might end up securing an Osimhen or a Gyökeres. However, if we would have won the Europa League, I think Delap would have been finalised, sealed and done. Delap might end up doing really well, and we might be here eating humble pie. But I'm trying to sort of spin a positive. We might not. We also might end